So the Chicago Bears just quietly revealed a huge problem. And I think it's a problem that I thought was already put to bed. And so, okay, we got our wish, right? Head coach Matt Eberflus, he was fired yesterday. And granted, I never want to celebrate someone losing their job. There's families, there's a lot of things at stake here, but we can all agree it was the right move and with just cause. So let's move on from that. So now everything is fixed, right? A bright future, clear purpose, strong leadership, right? I'm not so sure about that from recent events. And through these recent events, the question I'm trying to figure out, who's even in charge here? In what should have been a clear-cut, decisive move, even this firing, it feels fully disjointed. It feels fully unorganized. And what this speaks to is dysfunction from top to bottom. Either the McCaskies are still meddling with decisions in minutia, with both GM Ryan Poles and team president Kevin Warren, they assured us that they have full autonomy, or just plain and simple, they aren't up for the job themselves. And I think for those of us in the workforce, which should be all of us, a big indication of the quality of a company, the quality of a workplace, is that when there's a big decision to be made, it's clearly known who is in charge, who the buck stops with, and also how things are handled. Are they handled smoothly? Are they handled decisively? Or is it just like a bunch of murkiness? We've both experienced both. And I like to highlight positive things to enjoy as Bears fans here on this channel. But here, I just don't see positivity. Help me out if I'm wrong here. So let's go into this a little bit. This is Sports Talk Bears. I'm Sean. Hey, hit the subscribe button. Join this positive community that's starting to feel like family. Would greatly appreciate that. So let's get into this. So everyone's fully aware, right? 6-game losing streak. Losses attributed to Coach Flus's coaching decisions, rightfully so, right? After this sideline freeze, I don't know what else to call it. This freeze that we witnessed on Thanksgiving, he paid the price. He was fired. But then it's gotten weird. First, the Thursday press conference after the game was delayed. Now, okay, not a huge deal that the press conference was delayed, right? But optics here matter. You've got DJ Moore saying, we crap the bed. That's an edit. Kyler Gordon rolling his eyes, saying no comment, next question when asked about the end of the game. And then you have Keenan Allen saying at best with, as players, we did enough to win this game. So now you delay the start time and you trot out a coach who's obviously going to be fired at this point, and then you allow him to speak to the media with absolutely no preparation from the front office. I mean, and this is a big thing that no one else is covering. We had a much ballyhooed head of media and public relations hired in Ted Cruz. He is supposed to oversee all corporate and football communications, among other duties such as social media, content, branding. This is supposed to be our media guy. And this is a brand new position created by the Bears. And he's a 12-year veteran in this capacity with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a really successful guy in this part of the business. Here's part of his job description. I'm just going to read it for you. He works closely with President and CEO Kevin Warren and the executive leadership team to enhance the Bears' brand initiatives, streamline operations, and ensure consistent messaging internally and externally. So apparently he was sleeping after his Thanksgiving dinner. You allow Eberflus to double down on his handling of the game and also share that he's preparing for the next game against San Francisco, all while throwing players, most notably his quarterback, under the bus through his political double talk and no accountability whatsoever from the head coach while your players are revolting in the locker room. No clear messaging, fully embarrassing. So, I mean, were they still indecisive on what to do as a front office? Just let things twist in the wind overnight. Let him do that press conference. And then you allow this on Friday. And this is what ESPN Bears insider Courtney Cronin had to say, and her opinion carries a ton of weight. So I'm just going to quote from this. Just like with Shane Waldron, it was evident well before now that a firing would take place. Matt Eberflus waited 2 days after the Patriots lost to fire Waldron, even though the writing was on the wall in the way he addressed questions about Waldron's job security after the game. The Bears could have done this last night, but chose after getting embarrassed on national TV, to bring even more humiliation on the franchise by trotting out Matt Eberflus to do his day after press conference and then whacking him just over 2 hours later. For an organization that has talked about doing things differently to break cycles of past regimes, this unequivocally misses the mark. I'm going to close that down. Just think about that a little bit. You get a head coach, first off, making him go out in an embarrassing fashion, getting asked about his job security repeatedly when he had no ability or possibly even permission to speak on it. Going through how he's planning for the upcoming game against San Fran. I think he said we're going through our regular operations. Actually, not even kind to him at all. Not classy to embarrass him further like that. That's my opinion. Then you fire him 2 hours later. No public word from GM Ryan Poles or President Kevin Warren as far as a public press conference. And I'd argue that should have started out the presser on Thursday after the game. Just cancel Friday's press conference. Actually, it was a Zoom call. Don't do that to your coach. And also, show us something. Show that this is going to be done right with clear messaging. Announce it clearly. Announce it authoritatively. It just kind of feels like Bush League still. And why have a media relations department if they're non-existent at the most crucial time, right? And we did get a statement from Poles this morning after meeting with George and Kevin. We informed Matt of our decision to move in a different direction with the leadership of our football team and the head coaching position. Warren messaged, and they said, this is, this isn't live. This isn't speaking it. This is just issuing a statement. Warren said that it was a GM's decision. I support Ryan and the decision that was made this morning. That still is kind of double talky. It doesn't say that Ryan made the decision. But another question. Why is Eberflus on a Zoom call yesterday morning? I mean, maybe it's because of how everyone was hired. Maybe it goes all the way back. It's kind of wishy-washy here. You look at GM Ryan Poles being originally hired. He was never able to make a full coaching search. He was actually given a panel. There's a 5-person panel that guided this hiring decision. They essentially handed him Matt Eberflus as his coach. Then a year later, his boss is hired in team president Kevin Warren, and both guys, Eberflus and Poles, are handed to team president Kevin Warren. So, and I'm still a little murky on even why Kevin Warren is there. I mean, is he truly a football guy? Is he truly a football boss? Or is he just here to get a new stadium deal done? Just kind of feels off. And Jack Silverstein at Windy City Gridiron, just the gold standard here. He shared the best. He shared it in the best way where we find ourselves now. And I'm just going to let him talk. Today's firing of Eberflus is the latest example of that muddled authority. Once Ryan Poles decided he was trading Justin Fields and restarting with Caleb Williams, firing Eberflus was the obvious decision. All the traits that got him fired today were on display in his first 2 seasons, right? Williams is our 4th first-round rookie quarterback since 2003. And in the first 3 cases, we paired that rookie with a coach on the hot seat. The organization knew this was a pattern, and Poles must have realized that Eberflus is not the coach to develop a quarterback. And that's an interesting thought. Ryan Poles is a smart man, right? You gotta believe he saw this pattern and that it should start fresh with a brand new quarterback. I mean, he should have seen that. If he didn't see that, if this is all him working in autonomy, he should no longer be the GM. So another question. Is it possible, and this is starting to come out, is it possible that Poles was forced by those above him to keep Flus for the sake of continuity? I mean, we just found out that Flus was under contract actually through 2026 and not through 2025. That's one thing. But beyond that, Zimmerman brought something else up. When Poles was hired, he didn't get the freedom to just cast a wide net and find his coach. Once again, he was led by a 5-person committee. Who led that committee? George McCaskey. Then George hires Kevin Warren to be Poles' boss a year later. Like, come on. It sounds kind of silly when it's laid out this way, right? It's now coming out that GM Ryan Poles wanted to fire Eberflus following the listless, my team has quit on me type of performance against the New England Patriots. And that came after the Washington game, which the game-ending decisions on that game were maybe even worse than the Thanksgiving game. It was just to a smaller audience. So the Bears blog shared this nugget. Last night, the case was forcefully made to George by Ryan and Kevin, but George made the call to do it today. So who's really in charge? But still, he was thrown out there after the game for a press conference. We might never know how this really went down, but there's just not a clear view on who's really in charge, who makes the decisions, who has the backing of ownership. It's just like a big muddled mess, and how this was handled, it fully illustrates that. And now we look to the future. We now have a future head coach candidate in Thomas Brown getting a 5-week job to interview. What a climb up the ladder, right? Let's look at this. 18 days. That's the space of time that has passed from passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator. Does a really nice job, and now he's the interim head coach. So there's some things that still need to work out with this. I'm assuming he'll continue calling the plays on offense. He's going to have to be moved down to the sideline instead of up in the booth. And I'm interested to see how that really affects things. That's a concerning thing because Thomas Brown himself, he recently shared to the media that a big beneficial change Brown made was actually going up into the booth to call the offense. He didn't feel calling plays on the sideline was a great thing. That was gleaned from his experience calling plays at Carolina. That's one thing. I mean, and that was part of him being determined to simplify communications to rookie quarterback Caleb Williams. Be up in the booth. I'll handle the play calls. I will decide when we talk back and forth on the headset, and then I'm also going to give you some time with your teammates and also some time with your other coaching staff. I'm not going to be up in your face every second barking orders and walking through things. He felt that that was a really important thing to simplify things with this rookie quarterback. And I think we saw really good results with that. So we'll see if some of that was dependent on him being up in the booth calling plays. That's yet to be seen, but he's going to get a shot here, right? I'm not sure it's the right decision, but this guy has just been impressive, and I'm excited to watch him work. Flus had to go. The locker room, they wouldn't have stood for even one more day with him in leadership. So let's try to be optimistic. See that we have tons of talent on this team, this roster, and hope that common sense prevails and that the main objective moving forward will be fixing this offensive line. And in many ways, fixing this offensive line is way more important than the coach that we hire. And why do you ask? I mean, I'm going to pose a question. Some of you might not like it, but just think about this. Is Ben Johnson, is he still an offensive genius if he didn't have the number one offensive line in football? I mean, I'm going to argue that Detroit does have the number one offensive line in football, and it's not close, and it's been like that for multiple years. Because I don't care who you hire, without an old line, he's cooked no matter what the scheme is. And this is just really concerning with this franchise. We need a clear chain of command. We need a clear, if you're going to have Ryan Poles and to a lesser extent, team president Kevin Warren take the fall for the good and bad decisions, they better have full autonomy. And every indication here, especially that nugget talking about that GM Ryan Poles and team president Kevin Warren, that they had to actually persuade George McCaskey to break tradition and fire a coach during the season. And then George made the decision in the morning. And we know the history of George McCaskey. Things aren't always done correctly. So now you have the guys that are supposed to have autonomy pleading with a decision to be made. And then that decision not being made efficiently. And former head coach Matt Eberflus has to go through the ridiculous embarrassment of still doing his Friday press conference via Zoom call with the media. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous. Let's hope that this gets fixed. You guys bear down. We have some extra time to prepare for this game against San Francisco, and we'll see what happens before then. I'll be talking to you in the meantime. See you guys later.